Hi, Ron.
Stu, what's going on, brother?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. We were talking. I'm going to go to Greg here, okay, before I get to you, Ron, before we get to your answer. If I set the over-under, because Greg and I, we were talking about Halloween and costumes and all that stuff and whether you like to go to parties or not. And Greg and I know you very well. We feel like we know you very well. So we feel like you're a big Halloween guy. Greg, if I set the over-under on the amount of couple costume parties that Ron Magill goes to every Halloween, if I set it at 1.5, what would you take? Over, under?
That's a good over, under. I'm going to take the over. Ron, I picture you and the missus as being dress-up people for Halloween. I have you going to at least 2 costume parties in the next few weeks.
And you would win that bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not that I like to go to them, to be honest with you.
You do.
But my wife loves going to them.
Right.
And they usually, include free food and booze. I don't drink, but my wife does, and she enjoys that. And, it's happy wife, happy life, guys.
And what's the go-to costume for you?
It's always Dracula. Dracula and Miss Dracula. I'm the count. They call me Dracula.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you do different costumes for different parties, if it's the same people. You just always do the same costume?
The same costume, bro. There's too much thought process in the other stuff. This costume is, it's not even a costume. It's a real tuxedo. It was a custom-made cape. I actually had these teeth custom-made, so they're real teeth that go onto my teeth. And, the trouble is now that I'm going bald, I'm not really Dracula anymore because I got this big bald spot in my head.
And is this something where, since you guys are kind of the same thing every year, it's like a tradition, do you guys both get into character when you're dressed up? Like, before you leave for the party, are you talking to each other as these characters?
No, I just suck on her neck a lot.
Whoa.
Wow. Baby.
Hell yeah. My man.
Will you occasionally wear the costumes like on a Wednesday in May?
No.
No. Huh.
No. That costume goes away after Halloween doesn't come out.
Really?
But the hardest thing of the costume for me is I got these custom contacts that make my eyes like super white, red, right. They're horrible. They scare me when I look at them. But I can't even put eye drops in my eyes. So I got to hold my eyes open with my 2 hands, and my wife's got to put the thing in, and it takes an hour to put the damn contact in.
Yeah.
Ron, Stugotz made not admission, but he said something I had never considered. He says that when you go to Halloween costume parties, that sometimes you end up making out with someone that's not your spouse because they're in the same costume. Has that happened?
No, that has not happened.
Okay.
I will say
Not that you know of, I mean.
No. Listen, I don't want him kissing my wife.
Oh.
I will say this, though. People in costume tend to be a lot more freaky in a lot of ways. There's an anonymity that allows them to do things that they would not normally do in public. Okay. And I've noticed that over and over again. We used to have a costume contest here at the zoo called the Monster Masquerade. They canceled it a couple of years ago, a few years back.
Cancel culture, right?
You know what? Yeah, because she said, that really wasn't appropriate. People would come and start doing some really kind of freaky stuff. It was a lot of fun, man. It was a great time. So the new director, we're trying to convince him to bring it back. We're trying to convince him because, man, I enjoyed watching these people doing some wild stuff. Yeah. We had a person dress up in cellophane. Just cellophane. And she was beautiful, but she just wrapped herself in cellophane. That was it. And you can squint and you can kind of, who's the bear? Who's the bear? Hey, bear.
Hey, bear.
Hey, bear.
Hey, Ron. It's Jer Bear.
Ron, I have a question for you about fish. We were talking about pedicures earlier today, and the pedicures where they have like the fish going and eating the dead skin off of your feet and your leg. Now, they were saying that that's not good because there's bacteria that can be spread that way. I would imagine that's not good for the fish either, correct?
No, it's fine for the fish because the fish are feeding off of it. It's not necessarily good for you because, the fish are swimming in water that they're pooping in, they're, relieving themselves in, and who knows what's in that water. And it could be a portal for infection in your feet, even though the fish are really just eating dead skin. They're not like cutting into your skin. So I think that the risk is minimal, and people, it's one of those conversation things.
Ron, Zoo Miami recently welcomed the birth of a white-faced Saki monkey. Why is that significant?
Well, anytime you have any of these tropical American primates, and the white-faced Saki is found, in the tropical American forest in Guyana and Venezuela, places like that, it's a good insurance policy. One of the main purposes of zoos is to serve as an insurance policy against a very uncertain future in the wild. So when you have these animals, the Saki, for instance, is not necessarily endangered, but certainly the habitat that it lives in is becoming less and less every year. You're taking down areas of tropical forest the size of the state of Maryland every year. That can't continue. So to have these animals and have this insurance policy of this population under human care kind of helps us learn a little bit more about the monkeys themselves, and hopefully we can apply that knowledge to protecting them in the wild.
Ron, how are we going to stop the python problem in the Everglades? I follow a guy on Instagram who goes out and tries to catch all of these things. Fishing Garrett, he's incredible. He goes to the Amazon. He's like barefoot and catching all these, pythons and all these different animals. And it seems like 99% of the mammals in the Everglades are gone now because of the pythons. How do we stop this problem?
You're right. And I don't think we're ever, Tony, I don't think we're ever going to really totally stop that problem. The best we can try to do is manage it. Listen, the bottom line is there's tens of thousands. Some people say over 100,000 pythons out in the Everglades. Anybody who's ever been out in the Everglades, it's not just going to, the main entrance to Everglades National Park and walking through Anhinga. It's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of many inaccessible areas for humans, that is, but very accessible for pythons. I have walked by pythons that were literally 3 feet next to me, big pythons that I didn't even see. They blend in with their environment so well. So there's no way that we are going to go in there and catch and hunt pythons to make any significant impact. When they have this python hunt, listen, that's nothing more than just good PR. That's just trying to broadcast the fact that this is a problem. They make good newsreels. You got people catching snakes. These guys who go out there and catch these snakes, this guy you follow, it makes for great videos. People love watching that because most people are afraid of snakes. So they go, oh, God, I'm glad it's not me. It makes for a lot of likes, a lot of clicks. But at the end of the day, it's not really making a difference with pythons. What's going to make a difference with pythons is if we have some huge extended cold, which is coming less and less likely every year, or we have some kind of pathogen that comes in, some kind of bacteria or pathogen that is what we call species specific. In other words, it just affects pythons. Or, as we're seeing now, some predators that will start feeding on these pythons. So we got to have, the balance has got to be established, but that's going to take preparation.
Is what you're saying.
Python COVID. Exactly. Billy, that's a wonderful analogy. Python COVID.
Thank you. Ron, I have a question for you. So I've asked you about my bird feeder and my rat problem for a minute now. Someone suggested to me that I could put pepper in the bird food and that will have the rats go away, but it will not affect the birds, that the birds are not bothered by the pepper. Is that true?
I'm not sure about that, Billy. I don't know, so I can't answer.
Well, am I going to kill birds with pepper is really my question.
You never know. I mean, maybe there is some kind of incredible, allergic reaction to pepper to birds. I don't know. It could get into their lungs. Maybe it affects their breathing. I don't know. So I don't want to give that kind of advice.
Rod, in a crazy hypothetical, let's say Derek Jeter landed at a private airport and he jumps into his Wagoneer and he's driving to his house in Tampa and he has the X-ray vision stuff, okay? Would he be able to see a coyote?
If he's got heat sensor vision in his vehicle, yes, he would be able to see the coyote. He wouldn't see it the way you see it in the commercial.
Exactly, yeah.
He wouldn't see that. No, he wouldn't see that.
There are coyotes on the west coast of Florida, is what you're saying.
There are coyotes throughout Florida. I've got coyotes right here behind my office here at the zoo, walking free in some of the forest areas.
Got a couple of coyotes right here. How about that?
That's right.
That's really good. Hey, listen, guys. I also want to bring up something to you guys because I hear you talking about a lot when you're covering Colorado and the buffaloes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever brought up to Colorado that their mascot is not a buffalo; it's a bison?
I knew
really. You did?
Yeah, it's not a buffalo. It's a bison.
Wow. Scandal.
It's a bison, and it has to be a female bison because I heard male bisons are too aggressive.
Oh, yeah. They can be. That's true, but still. Everything's about the buffaloes. The buffaloes. They're not buffaloes. Buffaloes are only found in Asia and Africa. Wow. They're bison.
Wow.
There you go.
That changes everything. No, it changes.
Put that on the poll, brother.
Put one on the poll.
Yeah. I've been lied to my whole life.
Did you know that the buffalo mascot at Colorado is not a buffalo, but a bison?
The Bison Bills.
All right. Put it on the poll.
South Dakota.
Scandal.
Ron, you wrote a book with Greg Cote. We're very excited around here.
Holy crap, I cannot believe it either because I just got I don't know if Greg, you saw the email. It's number one on the bestseller thing for books on environment and animals. And it hasn't even come out yet on December 5th, and Amazon's got it at the top of their list.
How about that?
I can't believe it.
We should have asked more money from the publisher. Renegotiate.
We do feel, Billy pointed this out, that you took top billing. I mean, you really did, Ron.
No, I don't deserve top billing.
I mentioned that the book would not have happened without you. You're the reason for the book.
No. Listen, the writing is everything in
You
this
could
book.
get this love fest on the Greg Cote Show.
Right.
He's just going to go on for 10 minutes.
Let that promote the book,
telling you, we
okay?
did
The bottom line is, it's not. Listen, I'm going to be putting things on my social media platform later on today about the links to go get it on Amazon and stuff. But the fact that Amazon's already got it at the top of their list in that category, it just blew me away. I couldn't believe it. Thank you so much, Greg.
Well, thank you.
Chris, why are you upset? Because Ron Magill is my friend. Your dad is my friend.
I had to
Ron
listen.
Magill has been doing this show for over a decade for free, by the way.
I had to listen.
The least we could do is let him promote the book.
I had to listen to 25 minutes of this on the Greg Cote Show with Greg Cote of just back and forth of you were great. No.
Yeah.
You were the reason
bugle
the book
honking.
is so good.
Yeah, exactly right. Is the book good?
It's better than good, Billy. Come on now.
It's number one.
That's right.
Job. It's number one on their category on Amazon. I just got the screenshot sent to me this morning. I was blown away by it.
Right. 50-50? How are we doing this, the two of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's happening?
I already said publicly. I said in an email. I said Greg can have all of my proceeds from that book.
What?
He'll take them.
Wait, what?
No,
100 to 0.
I declined your offer,
What?
but thank you.
Are you stupid
He didn't decline my
businessman?
offer, but I did offer that. I said, listen, I'm willing not to take a penny on this because what Greg has done, this is going to sound so self-serving. What he's done is he's kind of written a legacy for the people I'll never see in my future generations, my great-grandkids, whatever. They'll find out. They can read this book and they find out who I am, and that's kind of like a neat thing because I think he did a good job of saying who I am in this book.
Yeah,
I'll take the proceeds.
Yeah, money's cool.
I mean, Greg, Ron, you don't want them, and Greg doesn't want them. I mean, they got to go somewhere, right?
Someone's got to pay for that Cadillac. You know what I mean?
Billy, did you really go there?
Sorry.
I'm still
I
getting,
forgot. That's a Ron Magill Wildlife Fund that
It
goes
is
for
a
that.
beautiful Cadillac. I've been in it. It's
Checks.
great.
I still get checks from listeners saying for the Cadillac with the exclamation point in the memo portion of for the Cadillac. I love that, man. I'm not spending any conservation fund on Cadillac, guys.
So the buffalo is not a buffalo.
It's not a buffalo.
This
That's
is
a
rock
big
my
thing.
world.
That is crazy.
I couldn't believe it. I always say, why do they call them buffaloes? It's a bison. It's a different species.
What's the
No
difference,
buffalo.
Ron?
Well, buffalo are only occur in Asia and Africa. They are from a different genus. They're different, their family tree is different. It's like saying, what's the difference between a lion and a tiger? They're both big cats. These are both big types of bovines, but they're different families.
But they look the same, though. You can tell the difference between a lion and a tiger. A buffalo and a bison, they kind of look the same.
Yeah.
Well, what about a leopard and a jaguar?
Ooh, close.
Cat of a different spot.
No,
Gotta
most people can't tell them apart, but they're very different species.
How about a black jaguar and a panther?
Huh?
Exactly. That's just a genetic mutation. That's not a different species.
Huh.
That's not a different species.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay. You got it, brother.
Good luck with the book.
Thanks.
So yesterday was an interesting day, Greg, for the Marlins. I think it was surprising for some people that are not super familiar with the situation in which Kim Ng essentially left the Marlins organization. So it wasn't that she was fired. They offered her an extension or they wanted to they didn't give her what she wanted, so she left, I guess, as a result, and is going to pursue other options, notably something she may go to the Red Sox. And I'm curious to hear what you think of the situation because for me it's confusing, right? Because she essentially, it seems like, wanted to run the entire baseball operations department. The team owner, Bruce Sherman, did not want that to be the case. If you listen to David Sampson, who was on the show yesterday, it seems like maybe Bruce Sherman hasn't been as involved lately as he'd like to be, so he wants to start doing that. They're not happy with the farm system. They're not happy with international signings, it would appear. They're not happy with, I guess, the way that the draft has gone on. So they wanted someone else, I think, to oversee the entirety of it and have Kim just focus on the major league roster. But it's interesting because the team just made it to the playoffs for only the third time in a full season. So I'm curious where you stand on this whole situation because the Marlins were getting crushed nationally by everyone yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, the timing is so strange because they're coming off what was a successful season, despite it ending so quickly in the postseason. But I think Kim Ng redeemed herself with this season because of a couple of the late signings that really propelled the team. Or trades, rather.
The deadline deals.
Yeah, the deadline deals.
Right.
I mean, they both worked out great. And, to bring somebody in over her, to have control over what she does, I think is the wrong idea. I don't think the club needs a club president. Maybe they need somebody specifically to oversee the international signings or something like that. But, I don't like the idea that she perceived it as, I got to answer to a boss all of a sudden that I didn't have to answer to before.
That part is totally fair, Greg. I think being in the position that Kim Ng was in to essentially be given a demotion in power after a successful season like that, I understand completely why she would take offense to it. On the same token, this was not, at least reportedly, someone coming in to change what her job was going to be in terms of managing the major league roster, which, by the way, as she was in this role, that was her primary job. The premise was that we want to reshape the rest of the organization around you, from amateur scouting to development of players, and bring in a president of baseball operations who would be in charge of sort of that part of the front office. This is similar to what the Mets had done in bringing in David Stearns and then wanting to keep Billy Epler in the GM job. The difference, the Mets were a catastrophe this season.
Epler left,
Billy
by the way.
Right,
Yes.
but Billy Epler left, right? So they
Yes.
hired a president of baseball operations above Epler, who at the time was still under contract, and he decided to leave while still under contract. Kim Ng was not under contract. There was a potential mutual option that was there, and so her decision was, I don't want to see somebody be brought in even to be a co-decision maker on anything, and I can completely understand why her decision was to move on, but this is not a situation of the Marlins like, yes, it may have been an insulting offer to her, and I can understand why she would feel that way. There is no reason to take a demotion with success. On the same token, I think the Marlins, in their minds at least, were not demoting. It just wasn't promoting to, hey, you have the full run of the entire organization.
Thank you, Bear.
It seems like part of it may have been there was just no one in that position. So she
Correct.
was operating in that position, and then they decided,
Derek
well, we're going to
Jeter had
hire
essentially
someone.
been doing that from the owner's box.
From her perspective, I think from her perspective, it also makes sense because her stock is very high right now.
For sure.
And there are
As it
some
should be.
good opportunities out there, potentially with the Red Sox, potentially with the Mets. Now, with the Mets, you kind of have a similar situation there, which is not what she wanted here necessarily. So I think it makes sense, being a free agent, to go out there and see what you can get. And if you could run an entire organization like the Red Sox, why not?
Was her stock very high, though, before the Bell and Berger trades? Because I feel like Marlins fans were being very critical
That's
of her.
why-
Before
that's-
those, so 2 trades.
No, it
and
wasn't.
she just-
It wasn't, but it just takes 2 and you make the postseason. That's it. Your stock rises.
Well,
I mean,
that's why this is a perfect time to be testing the market.
Exactly.
Right. And the other thing is, we don't know this yet, but if she ends up signing with the Red Sox, we're all going to look back and say, wow, what a great move she made. Because the Red Sox are a bigger franchise. They're going to spend 3 times what the Marlins spend.
Not lately.
Well,
that is part of the criticism
there's still
recently
a
of
big-
the Red Sox, by the way, is that
They're not spending.
They've been cheap. They've
Right.
let go of their stars. Mookie Betts was the
Right.
first, and there's been a
But
long
Greg's
run of them.
point,
That's
his
fair.
larger point, is a good one. Like, any job compared to the Marlins is going to be a step up.
Right. I mean,
Yes.
there's cheap
not quite
Red Sox still outspend the Marlins.
Sure.
Okay.
But what part of what they're trying to fix is not the spending. It's
Correct.
it's the developing. Like,
Right.
you look at what the Braves are doing, and that's a prime example of what it is that you want your organization to be. Another thing that's a factor here, I think, with Kim M in particular, is that this is a good time that her stock is high, and you go into next year and you see Jorge Soler will probably opt out. Josh Bell will probably opt out. Sandy Alcantara is going to miss the entire season.
Yep.
They won a lot of one-run games this year that could easily have been flipped. You could very easily have a season next year where they lose 10 more games
At least.
than they did this year,
Right.
and it'll look like a giant step backwards, and it was just baseball happened.
Correct.
And then you lose all of that stock and goodwill that you built up because you look and you're like, oh, well, I guess you couldn't follow up, and then maybe some of those other jobs are no longer available.
No, that's fair. All good points. I have a feeling she made a strategic decision. I think she either knows she's going to get the Red Sox job or knows another one's going to open up. I don't think she does what she did unless she has an idea from her sources that there's going to be a job for her.
She doesn't leave unless she knows there's another bigger and better job.
I have to think that's
Well,
the case.
there's been time as well. Like, the season ended a week and a half ago, maybe longer. So, it's not like the season ended, I'm leaving, I'm not going to be part of the team anymore. It's been a little bit of time. So you
Correct.
imagine that there have been conversations, at least at some level, to have some sort of idea that I may be in play for a larger role.
This doesn't seem like something that ended with animosity. Like this seems like a and maybe I have the wrong read here, but this does seem like a strategic decision by Kim to put herself in the best position to succeed long term. And so for her, she didn't want to be, as you mentioned, Greg, either a co-decision maker or underneath somebody
Right.
else as a president of baseball operations. Stock was extremely high. Billy just mentioned all of the reasons why that could potentially change going into next season. It's kind of just a calamity of forces all coming together that made this make a lot of sense. And even if there's not a specific job that she gets this year, stock is high. And when your stock is high and time goes by. We saw it with John Gruden as a coach. We saw it with John Gruden as a coach, right? The longer he was away, the more everybody looked at him as like this next savior.
Right.
So Kim, if a year goes by where she doesn't get a job here, next time a GM search is open or a president of baseball operations search is open, she'll be right near the top of the list.
That's a good point because that happens in all sports. We saw it in the NFL with Sean Payton. He's out of coaching for a couple of years.
Exactly.
He's the big savior. Now he's off to a terrible start with Denver. But
I love that we had that conversation with someone dressed as a bear.
The one thing that I'm curious about as we're going to pick games here, the one thing I'm curious about is that yesterday David on the show said that the Marlins are in a good position to move forward here with the next hire. And I don't know how you could know that. You know what I mean? Like saying the Marlins will be better off as a result of this because there's not going to be that power struggle between Kim and Bruce. And I don't know how you know that without knowing who the next person is.
yeah, I think he's got. I give David Sampson credit. I think he continues to have sources both within the franchise and in baseball.
Look at this. 2 birds with 1 stone we're doing right
I
here.
love it.
The
Amazing.
Jets.
All right, Lucy picked the Jets.
Chris, you are so turning into your dad, man. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
They're on a bye. I will be keeping the Jets.
And
The
by
Jets.
the way,
Nice.
this bucket of death brought to you by KFC's new hot and spicy wings. Order an 8-piece of the new hot and spicy wings for $4.99
Impossible.
at participating KFC's
That can't be right.
today.
No
hey,
way.
let's say it together now. It's finger
licking
licking
good.
$4.99.
So
It's impossible.
It's a
How's
steal.
It must be $49.99. You read that wrong.
All right, so Lucy got the Jets. The Jets are on a bye week. 3-3 headed into the bye. I can't believe it. Cannot believe it.
Reaper looks a little different this week.
Yeah.
That's
He
Jeremy.
looks a little happier.
It's a Jer Bear.
Bad news, Bear.
Rummaging.
Oh, we lost.
Oh, we lost
Bengals.
it. You got to put it back in. You got to put it back in.
You want the Bengals. They're on a
You
bye.
might want the Bengals.
Yeah, they're on a
So
bye.
annoying.
Put it back
Right.
now. He's got to
Oh,
put it back.
Greg got
now.
the Bengals. No, he didn't.
He's really.
Oh, that's a good helmet.
KC.
I think the Chargers, right?
Yeah, the Chargers of Kansas City.
Dicey game.
Yeah.
At Kansas City.
Yeah.
They're 5.5-point favorites.
I'll keep the Chiefs.
Maybe
Oh.
say into the mic so the audience can hear.
I'll keep the Chiefs.
He's keeping the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Boring.
No, it's amazing, though, that the NFL, we've arrived at a place where the Chiefs at home and you're nervous about it.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
you're not going to be surprised if the Chargers, who lost last night, if they go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs.
Last week was brutal.
Yeah.
The sports books had their best week of the season.
Watch out, Greg.
All right, so
Roller.
guys,
betting
listen.
public
We have
lost.
1 minute left in this segment. We got Mad Dog coming up next,
Oh,
and Dan's
wow.
not here, so I'm just doing it.
Yeah!
Weekly update on our favorite team, Rex Lobos. Here is the head coach and president of football operations, Greg Cote.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Let me tell you something. The Bows are back.
Let's go!
The Bows are back in town. Won our second straight game, 184 to 130. Raheem Mostert, 34 points. 28 from Cooper. My cup runneth over. The Bows are
Gamble on by DraftKings.
Yeah! He is a legend. He's the host of Mad Dog Unleashed, weekdays at 3 o'clock on Sirius XM. Has his own channel, Mad Dog Radio. You can check it all out. First Take as well, Doggy. In fact, Stephen A. Smith just did his top 5, Stephen A's list, and he had the Lions ranked as the number 1 team in the NFL, Dog. Your thoughts?
That's a little strong, Stevie. He's trying to get reaction. The Lions in the top 5. I have no problem with that. You can't put them over San Francisco. You can't put them over the Chiefs. You can't yet put them over the Eagles. I would probably put them somewhere around 4 or 5. 1 is way too high. I'd still put San Francisco 1. He missed a 41-yard field goal, makeable, tough spot. Couple of guys injured, second half. I put the Niners 1. Philly hasn't played great. I'll go them or Kansas City 2, the other 3. And then I think you can debate where you want to go with Buffalo, with Miami. I wouldn't put Dallas there. Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, and how you want to handle those last 3. But I would not put Detroit 1. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's stupid. That's just trying to get reaction. The Lions have not earned the number one spot yet. I think we all agree. Correct, Stugotz? I think you'd agree with that, right?
I'm with you, Doggy, 100%. They're a good team. They are not the best team in the NFL. That's absurd. Yes.
Not yet.
Eagles were at 5, Doggy.
That's too low.
Yeah.
Got to be higher than that. They had a bad game, bad play by obviously Hertz, but you can't put them 5. I mean, geez, really? 5? The team that got to the Super Bowl last year and has won their first 5 games, they have to be higher than that. Again, San Francisco, the Eagles, and Kansas City. You can pick your order. I'd go San Francisco, Kansas City, Philly. You want to do it a different direction, I'm okay with it. Those are your top 3. And then you maneuver with Miami, which has to be considered. Obviously, Buffalo. I know they were lucky against the Giants. They are still Buffalo. And then the Lions. You can figure out how you want to handle 4, 5, and 6. That's your list. That's the way you do it. I'll kill him tomorrow for that. That's ridiculous. That's Tim looking to get a little attention.
All right.
What do you say to these people that say that Jaylen Herz is a bit of a one-trick pony, that he only has that tush-push play?
I say, did you see the Super Bowl? I'll start there.
You're one of those people, Billy.
I got to see a little more before he put him in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
So I'm not quite ready to do that yet. And he was not great against the Jets. He killed them late in the game. We all know that. The second half, 3 picks. So, I mean, he's still got some to prove as far as being, a top shelf, borderline Hall of Famer, 10 years of greatness ahead of him. I'm not quite ready to go that far. But I don't think it's, he's just a product of a play that, by the way, should be banned. I can't stand the play. Yeah. It should be banned. I'm not ready to put him quite, that he's only a product of the one play. That's not fair either. So somewhere in between, I had a bad throw against the Jets. Let's not too quickly jump off the bandwagon. That's not fair.
Is it time to finally say the Dolphins were right to draft Tua ahead of Justin Herbert?
Good question.
That's a good question.
Yes.
I would say no to that, only because Tua's got to show and prove that he can play 17, 18 games. He's played a good 5, but wasn't great in Buffalo. They have so much speed. Doesn't have the same kind of weaponry out there with the Chargers, although Allen is obviously very good. I would say no to that, but I think it's in your area, part of the woods. I think you can debate it. So I think that's a very good point. But I would not quite say yes to that. That's not fair. That Tua better than Hertz. Not quite. I'll tell you the one thing that we can definitely say, and I've said this before, Flores is a very good defensive coordinator. He's done a good job with the Vikings with their defense. But, I mean, he benched Tua 2 or 3 different times in his 2 or 3 year run with the Dolphins. And you are not going to be a big-time coach in the NFL, and owners are going to hire you if you are not good with quarterbacks. And Flores was not good with his quarterback in Miami. McDaniels is, and I think that is the reason why the switch was made there, to get a guy in there to get the most out of a number 1 pick. That is the head coach's main job, to figure out a way to get the most out of his quarterback, especially if he's a high pick in the draft. McDaniel's done that with Tua, no question about it.
Doggy, you're a legend, and I love you, and you know that. But I'm wondering, why are you so concerned about Christmas in October? I mean, the Christmas Eve game, Doggy. You're going to church. You said it on your show. I mean,
you heard that?
I did,
yes.
Doggy. Yes.
I'm bothered by the Christmas Eve schedules, Stugotz, and I'm bothered by a couple things with the NFL schedule.
Okay.
The fact that after sitting around here all day putting presents together and going to church and having my mother's burnt veal parmesan, which is what I talked about last time.
Right.
And she does burn it at 90. The last thing I want to do is sit there at 8 o'clock at night and get Patriots and freaking, the Raiders? I mean, that's the last thing I want. Or is it Denver? It's Denver. That's the last thing I want at 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve, where I'm dreading the next day. Right. D-R-E-D, capital D, capital R, capital E, capital D. I want to lay money on a football game, and I got Broncos, and I got the Broncos and Pats. Drives me crazy. So that is where that came from. Okay. And then the next day, you got Giants-Eagles at 4:30. Christmas Day, you're dying to forget about eggnog and family and sit around on your fanny and watch football, and they gave me Giants-Eagles. So that's what drives me crazy.
All right. But are you going to church, dog? Are you going to church?
Yo, I go at 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve. That will be a problem this year because there are 4:00 games. So I might figure something out. And it's a tricky one, but I might figure something out. The family will be here, so the missus will be in a very good mood. So maybe I'll pretend to go to St. Mark's in New Canaan while she goes to St. A's, and I'll figure out a way to put my big fat rear end on the couch to the second half of the 4:00 games.
The best.
Doggy, I see a witch behind you. I'm wondering how you do Halloween. Do you still do costumes? Do you do couples costumes, family costumes? How do you attack
I wouldn't
Halloween?
dress for Halloween. That's another complete waste of time.
Oh.
I didn't like Halloween when I was a kid.
As a kid, you didn't?
And I couldn't stand it.
Pish
What a
posh.
joke. Running around getting candy. I couldn't, and nobody comes to my house because I'm a rough cookie. I leave all the lights off, no little kids bouncing around. And if they come, I give them more Tootsie Rolls because that ruins teeth. So I figured I give a lot of dental issues for the kids' family. But Halloween is not one of my favorite times. And I got a big break for years because I had 4 kids, 7 and under, and I always had FAN at the time, and it's a long drive. And I never quite made it home in time for the 5 o'clock walking around the neighborhood thing.
Right.
So Mrs. Russo took care of that. And I was delighted that I missed that disaster holiday.
Delighted.
Doggy's the best.
You're a Grinch. What is this?
Tony, go ahead. Tell him what you want to tell him, Tony.
Doggy, it's Tony. I want to be you when I grow up. To me, you are the GOAT. There's nobody better than you. The way that you can rip your mother-in-law on radio, it's amazing.
Veal parm is burnt. I mean,
it's a smithereens.
No, she kills that veal parmesan, and she insists on making a Christmas. Mom, please, we'll go to Walter Stewart's. I don't need your veal parmesan. First off, the kids can't stay. You know how kids are. They don't want to eat grandma's supper. They think it's got cooties in it. So they don't eat it anyway.
I love
and
you.
then I got to sit there and eat the nonsense and pretend I like it. If anybody, listen, I love the spirit of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I love Christmas carols.
Right.
I believe in the Lord and all that. But the actual holiday is a complete, utter disaster. I will bet but last year I got my comeuppance because last year, just to get through the day, you know what game here's what I did. I bet Miami against Green Bay,
right,
a loss, and then I doubled down on Denver in LA against the Rams. Do we remember the final?
Of course.
No, do
Was
you?
it 52-10?
Yeah, I think so.
10?
Yeah, 50. Yes, Doggy.
God, back at me.
Doggy, I have noticed a couple of times, we'll get to the bear in a second. I have noticed a couple of times here, Doggy, you've looked over at your wife. Does she think you're crazy? What is going on
absolutely. She's put up with me for so many years, and vice versa, I might add.
We heard it.
I mean, think about it. She has to put together the Zoom thing so I can do this this interview, and then she's got to listen to me knock Christmas, her favorite holiday. And that dopey, what's the movie called with It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed. Yes. I've seen that 1,000 times with George Bradley. Enough. I get the idea. The angel from upstairs gets them straightened out. I don't need it anymore.
Spoiler alert.
Give me a football game on Christmas Eve, and Roger Goodell gave me Belichick and freaking Sean Payton, 2 grouches. Oh, my God. What a day.
Doggy, you said that you do love the spirit of Christmas,
I
though.
do.
So with the spirit of Christmas, do you have maybe a top 5 favorite Christmas songs or a few that you can tell for us?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, wow. Of course he does.
I have
He's Mad Dog.
Bing Crosby song.
Over for something.
No, the other one. Do you see what I see? Yeah, that's the one. The Crosby song, Do You See What I See?
Yeah, that's number 5.
Oh, that's a great song.
Okay.
Play it now. Let's go. It's the middle of October. Play it now.
Okay. All right.
That is a great song. I play that all the time.
Do you really?
That's the song that I love.
Okay. Chris, are you looking for that song? Okay.
Find it. God damn it. Find it.
Mad Dog also hosts High Heat weekdays on MLB Network. Doggy, how much does Major League Baseball need the Phillies in the World Series?
Oh, they can't have Arizona in there. I completely agree. They'd never admit it. Right. And I think they get the Phillies. But they will have a good World Series. I mean, Philadelphia against either one of those 2 teams is a good World Series. Texas or Houston. Looks like Texas, although I wouldn't rule Houston out. They're better on the road than they are at home. Texas is going to lose the game eventually, and they are streaky. But I would think that the if they get the Phillies. The Phillies against either one of those two teams is a very good World Series. A lot of emotion in Philly. It's a great ballpark. Harper is a huge story right now. He's a big star. He crosses everybody relates to Harper. The Pat McAfees of the world, who doesn't necessarily love baseball, he's a perfect example. That's a good World Series. And I think, they're going to get, I think the Phillies, I'd be shocked if they lose to Arizona. No, I'm surprised Arizona lost to the Dodgers, but I think you'll get Philly against either Texas, looks like them now, or Houston, and that's a good World Series. No question about it. Good World Series.
It was good to see Travis Kelce out there yesterday also. We didn't see Taylor, but it was good to see Travis Kelce.
Thank God no Taylor Swift. Haven't you guys had enough of Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Here we go, baby!
Yes, doggy!
Here we go!
Yeah, doggy!
Do you see what I see? Oh, baby. How could you not like this? This is Christmas.
It's October.
There you go, a little eggnog and everything else. Again, a little snow. The spirit of Christmas is great. All the trappings you can take. Lock me in a room, give me a little Christmas music, I'll exchange a gift with the missus, and that's the end of it.